Okay, now we're going to take a look at the hive formerly identified as the mean hive. So it's been 2 weeks since we attempted to replace the queen in this colony. And we hope that it's worked to start to calm them down. But there's still plenty of life left in the bees that were already more aggressive. And so I expect for another month or even 2 to pass by before we can say with confidence that they're going to have a calmer demeanor every time. Now, the other thing I noticed as I looked around back is that one of my little shims fell out on the backside. Which explains a little bit of rock. So I may need to check the level on this hive again. All right. Oh, yes, and this is another one. The other issue with this one is that it's very low. So I noticed a significant difference in my comfort between working one like this and working one that's set 10 inches higher. Okay. So the entrance is here. We've renumbered all of these. And right after I renumbered them, I moved them all around. So I don't have a good marker for that. We'll just leave them here and I'll call them out as we go. We've got all 14 frames here, so this first one will be 14. It looks like it was added very recently. And in fact, they've not really done anything on it yet. So I'm just going to set that aside to give me room to work. Frame 13. Similarly, we've added very recently, but and all they've done is just one little bit snippet of comb. Frame 12 might have been around for a bit longer, or it might just be this is where they're more actively working. That is all capped honey. It is, though, unsupported. And so when I winterize, I'll take this frame, harvest the honey, remove the frame from use until I can add a dowel in the middle. So that's frame 12. This one would be 11 in its current positioning. This one is honey and nectar. A little bit of brood on one side. Still pretty full. So what I expect to be happening as the season advances and the dearth gets deeper is some of the cells that have been nectar or honey will be opened up for consumption. And then probably they'll do that down towards this end first. And you'll see a clearer definition between frames that are brood and frames that are food. But so far, we're still seeing the results of being very nearly honey-bound, where nectar and honey was just going every place they could store it. All right, here we have the same situation as 2 frames back. I'm going to move this one for the same reason, that it does not have any additional support. And I need to remove this and remediate it when we get to the honey harvest. or to winterizing. So I'm going to put it, we had what was 12 lacked support, what was 11 has support and also some brood. And so this one, having only honey and lacking support, I'm going to move to position 11. And what was 11 is now 10. And now we're looking at frame 9. They do seem much calmer, even though there's still some of the old bees around. And this is one heavy frame full of honey on both sides. It's capped. It's old. If there's enough to leave it, we'll either harvest this at winterization or leave it for the bees, depending on what else we find. But what I'm looking at this next frame makes me think, well, now the top half is solid honey. Bottom half seems to be nearly solid brood, but we'll see how it looks when I pull it out. All right, on this side, solid honey, except for a few empty spaces, which may be that they're consuming some of that. On this side, much honey, some brood, nice solid pattern, a little bit of drone brood. Man, that looks good. This would be an ideal frame for them to overwinter on. Not for them to overwinter on, but as a food resource adjacent to the brood frames. I think they'll probably clear out that brood by the time to winterize and move it all up here. And what I plan to do is to bracket the brood nest. Each frame of the brood nest hopefully will have plenty of nectar at the top of the frame, and then we'll provide some extra food as the first frame, and as the last frame we'll take away frames that aren't needed over winter. All right, here again, lots of honey, some nice brood, some open nectar. So they're still finding something to bring in, it appears. Backside, entirely honey. I don't see a marked queen here. All right, frame. Oh, the other thing I'm not seeing a lot of, pollen. But with pollen, it is typically stored near the brood, and it's my impression that we're still not really at the main body of the brood nest. All right, frame 6. We've got honey at the top, nectar at the bottom, some drone brood. Some empty cells, some cells with eggs, very young brood. Not a lot of pollen. I see a smattering of pollen. This is a completely different colony than what we saw before. They are getting a little bit more worked up as I approach the main part of their brood, but still, in terms of the way they're not they're flying and they're around me. They're not trying to kill me, and they're not doing it in large numbers. So the last frame or two, as I held it sideways, we had nectar fall out, which indicates that it's still pretty thin. They're still finding something. It hasn't been sitting there drying out in our Texas heat for very long. And as I'm stroking between the cells, I'm just removing some propolis that they've deposited between the frames. If I let that stay, it makes it hard to get a good seal between the tops of the frames. The tighter that seal is, the less propolis they have to bring in, because they'll try to seal it up every time I open them. Frame 5. There we go. There's our brood nest. And you may look at that and see it looks a little spotty. This part that's recently laid, it's not going to be spotty. There's little larvae in all of that right now. On this side, much the same. Eggs, lots of eggs. They've got a queen doing good work. Still don't see her. And if it's the one I think it is, she's marked, so I should see her. Sometimes they're really good at getting off a frame just as you pick it up to look. They're flying a little more now. All right. Frame 4. More brood. No sign of a queen on that side. More brood. No sign of a queen on this side. And not much pollen. So the origins of this hive are that they came from a cutout from a water meter in March. Okay, they're just getting started with this one. So they were feral bees. I have my suspicions that they had a good dose of Africanized genetics. Whoops. All right, we had a section of comb that broke loose. They're just getting started on this frame. I'm going to take that out, try to get that section of comb out in a minute. That was in position 2. Okay, they are getting a little more agitated with me, but that's understandable because the process is drawn out a little bit. This is where I'm hoping to see pollen. And I don't. Lots of honey. There's a little bit of pollen, just a little. Now I'm going to set this outside as well so that I can reach inside and pick up that comb that fell. Wanted to make sure we didn't have a queen on it or under it, and we don't. Okay, and I've got a little bit of burr comb right on the wall. I'm going to scrape that off and reclaim that wax. Okay, got that colony buttoned up, except for the ones who are still flying at me. There we go.